Update: dog bit home intruder. Intruder's mother is now threatening to sue for medical costs. Original post: throwaway for obvious reasons, but I live in an older home a stone's throw away from frat row in a party school college town. Just over a year ago, a college student drunkenly entered my home by throwing his weight at my 150-year-old wooden door at around 1 a.m. When he entered, he woke us up and startled our large dog, who was most likely sleeping on the floor by the front door. The dog bit him, drew blood, and the college student needed stitches. When we heard him entering the home, we called the police, who did a great job of coming quickly. They administered medical care to him, and one set of officers took him to the ER, while another set got a statement from us. We pulled our vaccine records for the dog, gave them the name of the vet, and so on. The next day they called to let us know that they had checked with the vet, and everything about our dog was shipshape, and the dog was obviously contained appropriately and has no bite record, so they didn't impound him or anything and chalked it up to doggy justice. They dealt with the student too, and communicated with us throughout the process, and after all the court dates, he received a fine and a misdemeanor. We did not attempt to escalate, as the college student was drunk, was stupid, had no prior record, and hopefully learned from the experience, and our dog. The door and frame got replaced and strengthened with another lock. We had no idea how brittle that door was. This week, over a year later, we got a letter from a lawyer representing the student and his mom saying we can settle for the cost of the dog bite expenses, which they did not itemize or send a copy of the bill for or anything, just put the number on a letter, or they will sue us for the cost plus legal fees. My husband and I can't see how this can possibly hold up in court, considering he was technically breaking and entering, and did receive a misdemeanor for that. My question is, do we even need a lawyer for this? Or can we just say, see you in court, and represent ourselves with a copy of the police report from the B&E? We're sort of regretting letting it go so easily now. Ugh, how can he possibly sue us for the cost of the stitches and ER bill when he was criminally trespassing in our house and breaking our door down? It's not like our dog was outside running around unsupervised or even on a leash or something. He's not an aggressive dog at all and had never before and never since bitten anyone. I feel like he and his mom watched one of those ambulance-chasing lawyer commercials and took the bait. Now for the top advice before reading the update. If he got probation, I would send the letter to his probation officer. They tend to frown on criminals trying to shake down their victims. And tell your dog what a good boy he is. And keep a really close eye on him for the time being. Don't let animal control or anyone else anywhere near him. Far too many stories on his sub about pets getting accidentally euthanized for stuff like this. The authorities have already been involved, and it's been a long time, so you probably don't have anything to worry about. Still, be careful. Along with this, set up cameras around the house so that you are covered if that Jack Wang tries to come back to your house and break in or harm the dog through force or poisonings. Another thing, if you have a closed-off area around the back, padlock the gate so he or someone else can't let your dog loose and provoke another attack. A few extra seconds having to open it when you need to get in and out that way can save your pup. My guess is, the kid lied to his parent about breaking into your home. I would bring a copy of the police report and any backup you have to an attorney to write a response to their attorney. Off topic, but I would not be surprised if the student had no input on choosing to sue. He might not even know. Agreed. Sometimes the children of crazy, overprotective, my kid can do no wrong mothers grow up and realize how nuts their homes were, but the mothers stay in denial mode forever. Edit/mini update. I'm hesitant to say where I live because it becomes way too easy to Google if I do. There are a lot of responses, and thanks for the advice, everyone. At this point, we've made up our minds to speak to the lawyer we had from the initial case last year. We'll call him on Monday and update after that conversation. Some answers to questions. We are the homeowners. We paid out of pocket for the replacement door and door frame, and we also replaced our side and rear doors and frames with matching doors when we realized how easy it was to get into our house by forcing the door. This was in the low 5 figures. We took it out of our emergency fund and did not go through homeowners. There was a restitution order, but it was not enough to cover the doors that we wanted, labor and door frames. We live in a historic home and wanted to keep with the character. We have lived in a historic home for most of our marriage, so we know to keep cash on hand for pipe leaks, furnaces going out, and now door replacements. We tell our dog he's a good boy every day, don't you worry. He is the goodest boy. Now for the full update. Quick update to this. It was easily handled. We met with our lawyer on Monday and paid him outright to draft a letter and include documentation of fault. Basically the police report, restitution order, court documents, etc. And also the vet records that include the police check-in and vaccine records for the dog. My vet wrote down when the police called him and why they called him, and my lawyer's secretary grabbed a copy of that for this. Why he is including this, I don't know, but if anyone has any ideas why this would be important, let me know. He did not want to include the bills and orders for the door at this time, but took a copy just in case we needed to move further. This morning, the student's mom's lawyer who sent the initial letter called our lawyer and said that the family would no longer be pursuing restitution for medical expenses and that we could expect a letter from him stating that, which would arrive at both the lawyer's office and our house within the week. Turns out that those of you who guessed that the student didn't tell his mom why and how he got bitten by our dog are probably correct. It wasn't explicitly said during the phone call, but my lawyer relayed that he could infer it from the way the conversation with the other lawyer went. This probably made his top 10 stupid cases list. Thanks again for the advice and help. I can only imagine the conversation between the mom and son later. Their dog bit you because you broke into their freaking house? Heck of a way to find out your kid has a criminal record. No doubt, my mom would have made me pay for the door and sent the owners a bottle of wine and a gift basket of treats for their dog. She never let me get away with anything when it was genuinely my fault. If it really wasn't my fault though, I never could have asked for the better support. Stupid kid should have come clean before his mom spent money on a lawyer. Yup, I'd be so mad if I was the mom and had to pay the medical costs and the lawyer just to learn that my stupid kid drunkenly break and entered a house. Reminds me of my accident last year where someone drove backwards at a traffic light and I was standing behind him on a bike and got run over. He was 18 and it was his best friend's dad's car. And there was no damage on the car, so he and his friend thought the best course of action would be not telling the dad. As if insurance would magically sort everything out with me without the dad knowing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my coworker she's the reason I resigned? I'm 27 female, recently resigned from my university job. People assumed I did because I wanted a more stable job, work in government. But honestly, the real reason was a toxic coworker who used to be my close friend. I actually helped her get her job. I shared materials, teaching tips, and record-keeping techniques so she could adjust. I even went out of my way by talking to the people we worked with to help her adjust. I really wanted her to succeed. A few months in, rumors started that she was an other woman of a married colleague. People warned me about her, but I defended her and stood by her even when it made me look bad. I didn't know what they were doing to be labeled as having an affair. Things changed when she snapped at me after I suggested a better way to organize her records. After that, I stopped involving myself in her tasks. From then on, she avoided her assigned office and didn't complete simple tasks I gave her, like shelf reading and reshelving. We work in a library. This year, I assigned her the semestral inventory because I was busy with an upcoming evaluation and visit. She acknowledged it in a meeting, but the semester ended and nothing was done. During summer, she used teacher's leave as an excuse not to do the semestral inventory assigned to her earlier. She said she could if she was allowed to work during teacher's leave, so she asked me to draft a letter asking her for work. Later, I found out it was so she could earn service credits. I was called by our admin and told she wasn't allowed to work because she was on leave. I later explained that it was a task assigned to her earlier, and I only wanted her to finish it. She was also paid extra for the upcoming evaluation and visit prep, but her outputs had errors. When I asked her to correct them, she dismissed it and again cited her leave. Later, I learned she told her program head I was forcing her to work. It escalated to admin, and I felt like they believed her side more than mine. That was my breaking point. I couldn't continue working with her. I looked for another job, applied, got accepted, and recently, I resigned. Before leaving, I told her to her face that she was the reason I resigned. She looked upset, almost crying, but I honestly felt relieved finally saying it. Later, she insisted she never said I forced her, just that she asked about her workload. But considering how far things escalated, I still don't fully believe that. So, am I the a-hole for telling her directly she was the reason I left? Or should I have just kept quiet and let people assume it was all about marriage and stability? Now for the comments. Your ex-friend sounds like a classic case of an other woman who's always the victim. Another friend of mine actually told me she's always the victim, always the bullied. Keeping any contact with her is a risk to you. Move on in peace, not the a-hole. I was actually planning to cut all contacts with her, but then thinking twice again about the decision. Just move on. I had someone do this to me, only I nearly got fired over her bad behavior. I'm lucky that my bosses believed me over her. Just move on. You won't get closure. She'll never admit she was wrong. Yes, that's what I'm planning too. Last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my sisters-in-law after they insulted me, tried to split up my marriage, and sent a threat of violence? 3 years ago, my husband, 46 male, cut off contact with my sisters-in-law after they insulted me, tried to get him to leave me, and one of their boyfriends threatened to physically attack me. We have been together for 21 years and have 2 kids, a 6-year-old son and a 7-month-old baby. I used to get along great with my in-laws until the birth of our first son. Both of my sisters-in-law, 43 and 34, had kids at 21. The older one co-parented with her ex until their son, now 22, grew up, and the younger one has been raising her 13-year-old daughter alone since birth until recently. When I got pregnant 6 years ago, they were over the moon. But once I actually became a mom, they started criticizing everything I did differently from them. They used to let their toddlers stay up until 2 to 3 a.m. on weekends, then yell at them when they were overtired. I never commented on this, but before we had children, my husband and I agreed on setting stricter boundaries. Regular bedtimes, no screens before age 3, supervised screen time after, no soda or junk food for toddlers, and no sugar for babies. To me, that's just basic parenting. But according to them, only giving milk or water in a bottle is too strict. A 9 p.m. bedtime is too early because they want to play with the baby, and babies should watch cartoons if they like it. For 3 years, my husband and I politely ignored their comments. When we were alone, we often laughed about the fact that they only ever criticized me, as if I were the only parent. Gradually, my sisters-in-laws started being outright mean. They would ignore me when I said hello, greeting only my husband and our son. They invited us for dinner and served only meat and fish, even though I have been vegetarian for more than 15 years, and it had never been an issue before since I can always eat the side dishes. I thought they would eventually calm down, so I tried to be patient and said nothing. When they served only animal-based dishes, I smiled, drank beer, and said I wasn't hungry anyway. I spent other family gatherings playing with the kids, which is always fun. However, I noticed that my son didn't enjoy being around them. He was wary, despite usually being outgoing with everyone. They are very loud. I am soft and gentle, so it wasn't surprising. But he may also have sensed their animosity toward me. I started seeing them less often because visits were draining. I kept my son with me each time I skipped an event because sending him without me would have felt like rewarding their toxic behavior. My husband supported me in this, so I skipped one of my sister-in-law's birthday and my husband went alone, intending to talk to his sisters to try to end the conflict. He came back furious, saying we would never see them again. He told me they called me a whore, demanded that we separate, and said he wasn't a man since he always does whatever I say, which isn't how our relationship works at all. We both compromise and make decisions together equally. He decided to cut them off, but a few months later, we ran into them. For the first time, after years of disrespect, I refused to say hello, stepped back and whispered, "bitch." One sister-in-law asked me to repeat it, so I repeated it out loud, and added that she had perfectly heard me the first time. My husband ended the discussion by saying we were leaving and asked me to follow him. The next day, one of their boyfriends sent me a threatening message, saying he would come over and physically attack me, and wrote that I could go ahead and file a report. It wasn't the boyfriend of the sister-in-law I called a bitch. My husband was mad. He called his sister, who indeed had asked her boyfriend to threaten me. He ended up telling her he was gladly waiting for her boyfriend to come if he had the balls. He never showed up. We never filed any police report, but we asked the police officer what to do, and they told us to wait for a second message and then press charges for harassment. He never sent another message and has since broken up with that sister-in-law. We haven't had any contact with them since. My other in-laws told my husband they didn't want to know the reason he and his sisters aren't speaking anymore, so they don't know what really happened. The sisters-in-law version is that I am a manipulative bee taking my husband away from his family. 3 years later, my husband and I had another baby, who is now 7 months old. Yesterday, my father-in-law came to see us and said that one sister-in-law cried on his shoulder, saying she misses her brother, and asked if we could put our differences aside and come back to the family reunions like before. My husband kind of froze and we told his father the whole story. He has told me before that he would be okay speaking again someday to the sister-in-law who cried, but the one who tried to send her ex to hit us is dead to him, and he wouldn't even attend her funeral. He doesn't even mention that he has one brother and 2 sisters anymore. He says he has one brother and 1 sister and doesn't speak to the sister in question. Father-in-law said that his daughters should show some respect to me, and that his son's choice of partner and the education given to his grandchildren should not be criticized, out of respect for him and for me. He said he would talk to his daughters. I think it's not my place to ask for an apology, because I am the mean, manipulative wife, according to my sisters-in-law. But to me, if there isn't a sincere apology, I am not okay with my sisters-in-law seeing my kids. And even with an apology, I am not comfortable letting my kids around toxic people like that. Am I the a-hole? Just to be clear, the kids still see their uncle, my husband's brother, and his wife, their grandfather. My mother-in-law is deceased. My husband's cousins, aunts, and uncles. The absence of contact is only with my 2 sisters-in-law, their partners, and children. Clearly not the a-hole. Keep your distance as long as you need, and kudos to your supportive husband. For real, the way the sisters-in-law escalated it with insults and even a threat says everything. That's not something you just sweep under the rug with a let's move on. Not the a-hole. They're toxic AF and you're better off without them.